Hello and welcome. I'm Ricky with Watch Mojo, and today we're taking a deep dive into the challenging side of gaming. For many gamers, the adrenaline rush of completing a tough objective is immensely satisfying. That's why we're starting off by looking at the 30 hardest achievements to get in video games.
Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 30 most difficult achievements and trophies to get in video games. Number 30, Personal Decorator, Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Keep pushing up, you've almost located the explosive.
Some of us do enjoy fully completing our games. There are games out there that can make it a fun romp, but Black Ops 3 is not one of those games. Just to get the Personal Decorator achievement, you are going to have to do literally everything there is to do in the campaign. Grab all collectibles, fulfill all challenge requirements, obtain all upgrades, camos, and attachments, and do it all on both veteran and realistic difficulty. What makes the whole thing worse is that the achievement is bugged, meaning you have a small chance of going through this arduous task and getting nothing in the end.
We're supposed to be, my friend! All you had to do was let us go.
Number 29, Ruffians Beware and Dungeon Sweeper. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. On the surface, Infinite Wealth looks like it'd be a straightforward and somewhat breezy game, the only difficult part being the grind to get Ichiban to level 70. However, just when you think you've conquered the Honolulu Haunt and the Yokohama Underground, you'll be given a surprise in the form of an EX floor on both. Waiting for you at the end of each are more powerful versions of their respective final bosses. Joe Amon will have the other Amons to help him in his fight, while Robo Michio will have copies of himself as allies, each with different attacks and resistances. Even if you're a few levels above them, you will have a harder time fighting these guys than you will fighting Infinite Wealth's final boss. Number 28, Retro Gamer, Pac-Man World Repack. For the most part, you can get through the remake of Pac-Man World with very little trouble. Thing is that the Retro Gamer achievement has nothing to do with your platforming skills. No, you're going to have to iron out your maze navigation skills and get good at the original Pac-Man. Not only that, but this achievement demands you beat the 9th round. Older players may not have that hard of a time if they've played enough Pac-Man in their day, but those less experienced may struggle. At least it isn't eating our quarters this time around. Number 27, Hunger, Among Us. The achievement for Among Us are straightforward, but many of them will require an absurd amount of playtime to pop. The achievement relating to Imposter will take even longer. However, the Hunger achievement will be your most challenging as it requires you to eliminate 3 crewmates before a meeting is called. Here's the problem. You can only do this in public matches, and most public lobbies put cooldowns on the imposter's abilities, so you pretty much have to hope whatever lobby you join likes their imposters less restricted. Number 26, Doomed Nightmare, Doom 3 BFG Edition. Doom 3 can already be a bit arduous to play for some folks. It plays much slower and a bit more clunky than the rest of the franchise, and there are so many tight corridors to navigate. Those who chose to suffer might be less inclined to go for the Doomed Nightmare achievement, which requires you to beat the game under the hardest difficulty, Nightmare. Sure, you'll get instant access to the Soul Cube, but to be stuck at a health pool of only 25, it's going to be a slog. Number 25, Commitment, The Stanley Parable, Ultra Deluxe.
This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year.
The Stanley Parable's trophy list is one big giant jab at trophy and achievement hunters. Really, only those of us who go for every achievement won't question tasks like clicking on a door 5 times or not to play the game for 10 years. But the challenge behind commitment is in memory and patience. To pop this, you have to play the Stanley Parable for the entire duration of a Tuesday.
Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined.
And how many of us are really going to stick to a routine like that? Worst part about it is that there is no workaround. You have to clock in 24 hours of game time during a date that falls on a Tuesday.
Hold on, what are you doing?
Number 24. How did we get here? Minecraft. There are some games that will give you a pity achievement for dying a certain number of times or in a very specific way, but Minecraft has an in-game advancement that is known to be way harder than any other task. The How Did We Get Here achievement will only pop for you if you have afflicted yourself with every status effect in the game. All 26 status effects must be applied to you at one time. There are methods to make this easier than it is, but even then it requires some daunting work to set up. Number 23. I'll take the physical challenge. God of War HD. Ask any God of War fan and they will tell you the challenge of the gods is always the toughest part of each game. Out of all the games though, the toughest of the challenges is the very first game, and if you want the HD version's Platinum Trophy, you're gonna have to suffer through this. The first 9 will range in difficulty, but the 10th is a real pain in the ass. In order to raise the platform to the goal, you will have to knock Cerberus pups off the platform while fending off 2 invincible satyrs. You're going to need all the patience and luck you can get. Number 22. Head Counselor. Friday the 13th, the game. Many of Friday the 13th's achievements require extensive playtime in a similar vein as Among Us. Whereas the Hunger achievement in Among Us is situational, Friday the 13th demands a real time sink. For the Head Counselor achievement, you will have to play 1,000 matches as Jason Voorhees. Just one issue. The game randomly chooses which player becomes Jason every match. One lobby can hold up to 8 players, meaning you can only have a 12.5% chance of being chosen to play as the killer of Camp Crystal Lake. Your odds probably increase after each player gets to be Jason, but even then, how long do you want to stick around for that chance?
Please, no!
Number 21. Lasso Master. Halo, the Master Chief Collection.
Good job, amigo!
The Lasso haunts many Halo players today. It is by far the toughest challenge any Halo fan could take on, even with a full squad of friends to help make the fight somewhat easier. What is Lasso, you ask? Well, it stands for Legendary All Skulls On. Basically, you have to play on Legendary difficulty and complete every mission without any deaths or saves.
I was almost on board when they showed.
Don't worry, man. We're on it.
This was a fan-created difficulty at first, but MCC made it a real thing with the Lasso Master Chief achievement. If you want to pop this, you will have to beat every game in the MCC under Lasso. Good freaking luck. Number 20. Mile High Club. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Tango down in Section 1 Alpha. Halfway down.
We hope you're quick on the draw because this one is still considered by many the hardest achievement to obtain in any Call of Duty game. On paper, it might sound simple enough. Complete the Mile High Club mission on Veteran difficulty setting.
Target destroyed.
However, this becomes a far more complex matter when you realize that it involves taking out waves of enemies, dealing with a hostage situation, and then escaping a double-decker aircraft carrier all within a single minute. Better hop to it.
We're going for a little free-for-all, mate. On your feet. We're gonna come in. Stay in edge time, mate.
Number 19. This is Total War. Rome 2 Total War. Have a knack for diplomacy and crafting out peace treaties? Well, forget all that, because to get this achievement, you have to go full-on tyrannical. Given how it's all too easy to automatically slip into negotiations, players will have to be extra cautious and launch an attack the moment they discover a new group. There's also the annoying little feature of there being so many factions for you to fight against that taking them all on doesn't only require a whole lot of bloodlust, but high-tier strategy to ensure you survive long enough to declare war on the next civilization you encounter. Man, conflict is exhausting. Number 18. The Real Deal. Left 4 Dead 2. Think you can shoot your way out of a zombie apocalypse? Well, only the best will be able to survive and make their way to this achievement. Not only do you have to complete a campaign in Expert Mode, which essentially increases enemy intellect and strength to absurd degrees, as well as the frequency and size of the horde, but you also have to play it with Realism Mode enabled. For those that aren't in the know, this basically turns the witch into a living insta-kill, further increasing durability of all other zombies, and generally tests you and your friends to their very limits. Good luck. Number 17. World's Finest. Injustice, Gods Among Us. You may well indeed dominate in online matches as your favorite DC superhero or villain, but in order to prove yourself as the greatest of them all, then you will have to complete not 1, not 10, not 100, but all 240 Star Labs missions. Not only do each of these missions put various constraints on the player as well as force them to play as a particular character, but each mission has 3 specific requirements that need to be completed.
This is usually the part where I quit.
Add that all together and you essentially have 720 tasks to complete. Yep, this sounds like a job for Superman, alright. Number 16. Hard to the Core. Dead Space 2.
Glad to see you've got all your parts.
You alright?
Yeah.
Isaac Clarke does not have it easy, what with being hunted by a murderous entity posing as his dead girlfriend, all the while surrounded with bloodthirsty necromorphs. If you're a glutton for punishment and think you can handle anything the marker can throw at you, then by all means give hardcore mode a shot. We guarantee you'll regret it.
I don't need your help.
Not only are enemies extraordinarily tough, but you only get 3 chances to save throughout the entire game. One thing is for sure, Isaac is not going to have a good time. Number 15. Ultimate Battler. Star Ocean, The Last Hope. Want to prove your mettle? All this game asks is that you unlock all of the battle trophies. All 900 of them. That's 100 for each of the 9 playable characters in the game. To unlock just one battle trophy, players are required to execute a very specific action, which can range from dealing a very specific amount of damage, attacking first several hundred times, gaining certain items, interacting with specific characters, the list goes on and on. And again, that's just for one character. Truly, your last hope for this achievement is to wade your way through an ocean of monotony. Number 14. Master of the Universe. VVV, VVV. As Captain Viridian, it's your mission to save your scattered crew and escape the titular dangerous dimension, with the only obstacle standing in your way being those accursed spikes often found on most indie platformers. However, there's a catch. You can't jump. All you can do is reverse gravity and direct yourself to avoid being impaled. What could be the most difficult achievement in a game where you're constantly facing death? Complete the whole thing without dying, of course. Want to be the master of the universe? Your only hope is surviving no death mode by the skin of your teeth. Number 13. Impossible Boy. Super Meat Boy. The majority of unlockables to be found in this hit indie title can be completed just by ensuring that our favorite meaty hero manages to make it through levels without dying once. The problem is that some of these levels are hard as all hell. The most difficult of these, oddly enough, puts players in the role of Bandage Girl, where they are required to ace all of the Dark World levels in the Cotton Alley chapter, which happen to be fast-paced and filled to the brim with death traps. And we thought Meat Boy had it bad. Number 12, Reign of Terror, Diablo 3. Abandon all hope, ye who enter, because if you want to prove yourself as a master of this dark fantasy RPG, you have to slay Diablo in hardcore mode. A mode that gives your character one life and one life only, and should you fall in combat, said character is gone forever. Given the amount of enemies and bosses, let alone the strength of Diablo himself, in order to unlock this achievement, players will have to navigate a literal gauntlet of death in order to slay the devil as nothing more than a true mortal. Talk about the highway to hell. Number 11, My Kung Fu is Stronger, Mortal Kombat. Gain mastery of all fighters? Well, that doesn't sound so bad. So how does one go about gaining mastery? We need to earn 100 victories, perform 100 fatalities and their subsequent variables, land 150 of X-Ray, spill 10,000 pints of blood, and go through 24 hours of gameplay. Sure, it would take a little while, but after a little while Wait, we have to do that for every single character? Start a tally sheet, because only the most committed of combatants are able to pull this one off. Number 10, Universal Explorer, World of Warcraft. Formerly known as World Explorer, and for a good reason, because this has you going on a trek across the entirety of Azeroth and beyond. In order to be granted the title of Explorer, players not only have to uncover and venture through every region within the Eastern Kingdoms, Outland, Kalimdor, and Northrend, but also all the expansion regions too. That means Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and Battle for Azeroth. And yes, you can bet that when the next WoW expansion comes, you'll have to discover all of those regions too. This one just keeps getting harder the longer you put it off. Number 9, 7-Day Survivor, Dead Rising. Frank West does not have it easy. Being stuck in a mall filled to the brim with undead is bad enough, but having to slog it out for a full 7 days certainly doesn't help. In order to snag this time-consuming achievement, players first have to unlock Infinity Mode by managing to earn the game's true ending. From there, it's a sandbox nightmare, as 7 days in-game equates to around 14 hours for players non-stop. You're probably going to have to put a weekend aside in order to complete, and here's hoping that you've stocked up on Mega Busters. Number 8, Seriously 3.0, Gears of War 3. If you can manage to land this one, then you might just be as determined as Marcus Phoenix is. First of all, you have to reach level 100, which is already an ordeal in itself, then it's on to earning the Onyx medals. All 65 of them. These include, but are no way limited to, kill 1,000 enemies with a captive, get 6,000 executions, spot 12,000 enemies, revive 1,200 squad mates, get 25,000 perfect active reloads, win 3,000 matches, earn over 7 million points in arcade mode, make 6,000 kills with every single weapon, and complete the campaign on insane difficulty. Wow.
Victory is ours!
Number 7, the Bladder of Steel Award, Rock Band 2. Sure, the difficulty settings can be lowered, but the fact is that you still have to play through 84 songs back to back without pause and without failure. Whether you excel at vocals, guitar, or drums, you had better get your music chops in order, because between the long hours and lack of any kind of break, this achievement has been known to be too much for the most seasoned of Rock Band fans. Between having to play through the likes of Judas Priest's Painkiller and accidentally pressing the pause button, snagging this achievement is the closest we'll get to a Golden God Award. Number 6, I Can See for Miles per Hour, Surgeon Simulator. Not too many achievements are this much harder when intentionally sloppy controls are a fundamental part of the game's design. In order to obtain this achievement, players have to perform an eye transplant in under 2 minutes and 10 seconds, all inside a speeding and bumpy ambulance. For PS4 players, this challenge is made even more tough thanks to the inaccuracy while using a controller. This trophy's small focal points made the joystick twitching a painful exercise, made even worse by the unorthodox methods you need to conceive just to constantly stay ahead of the stress-inducing time limit. Number 5. Mein Leben, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus.
It's you. Take this. They're looking for you.
And here we have an achievement so tough it has its own dedicated game mode. Mein Leben is the hardest difficulty setting in the game, and in order to obtain the achievement, you have to beat the mode. Sounds like a cakewalk for a tough and nuts player, right? Well, hold your horses, Rambo. You'll want to hear what this involves first. The Mein Leben difficulty is a permadeath run, meaning die once and you have to start all over. Oh, and unlike hard difficulty playthrough achievements, you can't save at all, meaning that you have to beat the entire game on the hardest difficulty in just one sitting, and save scumming won't work. Think you're mentally tough enough to take this challenge on?
Don't chicken stock if you got it.
Number 4. Emperor, The Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unleashed. Who wouldn't want to rule over all citizens of the Empire, enamored with absolute power and hailed as the greatest in all of Tamriel? Well, good luck, because to do so means you have to outdo thousands of other players in order to earn your throne. Not only does your chosen alliance have to practically control every keep and outpost around Imperial City, but you have to be standing firmly at the top of the leaderboard, meaning you literally have to be the best of the best. Sure, the perks of leadership sound great, but gaining that crown is the literal definition of an uphill battle.
We got it, yeah! Thank you, buddy. That is awesome.
Let's go, baby!
Number 3. Mr. Perfect, Mega Man 10. We've seen challenges that involve beating the game on the hardest setting, not dying once, and not saving. So how could Mega Man 10 up that ante? By not having the player get hit even once, of course. As either Mega Man or Proto Man, players will have to employ a whole lot of jumping and be damn fast with their shots in order to take out enemies. Sure, investing in the bubble shield may help, but that's not going to help much when you go up against the likes of the Block Devil. They don't call this achievement Mr. Perfect for nothing. Number 2. 90-Day Streak, World of Guns, Gun Disassembly. Well, if that includes delving into the inner workings of firearms, then this might be the title for you, and boy does it come with a hefty challenge. You have to fill in the silhouette of a particular gun, from its hilt, trigger, all the way to the smallest of screws, and you have to do this for 90 consecutive days without making a mistake, or else all your progress resets to 0. Given the various types of guns you might be presented with and how much time you have to put into it, this is an achievement that requires the patience of a saint. Number 1. World Champion, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. There can only be one. If you reckon that your skill is sharp enough and your trigger finger is on point, then you might as well try your luck at the Universal Leaderboard, where your prize for becoming the #1 player in the world earns you this devastatingly difficult achievement. The only way you'll ever hope to see it is to constantly win matches against stronger opponents to increase your rank, and given how many players stand in between you and the most coveted rank 1, it's an achievement only for the most dedicated and skilled players. What's the hardest achievement you've ever popped? Did it make our list? Some very daunting tasks in those lists. If you have any of those achievements, it's safe to say you're a serious gamer. Alright, up next we're taking a look at the hardest final levels, alternate endings, puzzles, and side quests in gaming. Let's go. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at alternate endings in video games that take a lot of work to unlock.
来てくださるのですか?
Number 10. The Bad Ending. The House of the Dead. This Sega-published arcade classic wanted to give you a happy ending for all the quarters you spent on it. The canon ending, where your fiancée Sophie is revealed to be alive, is earned by scoring over 62,000 points. The neutral ending, just a shot of the mansion where it's set, is given to players who score under that. However, its bad ending, where it's revealed that Sophie has been turned into a zombie, is actually quite hard to obtain. You still need to score under 62,000 points, but specifically you have your total end in 0. That would be awfully hard to plan given the nature of the game, so you'd need a fair bit of luck. Number 9. The Dog Ending. Silent Hill 2. We may have all seen it by now, considering how absurd and iconic it is, but unlocking the dog ending in Silent Hill 2 still takes a lot of effort. You must have either beaten the game 3 times to see the regular endings, or, after having beaten it once, unlocked the rebirth ending by collecting 4 hidden items around the town.
James. Maria, I'm finished with you.
On the next playthrough, you'll find a special key inside a doghouse, which opens a door in the observation room of the Lakeview Hotel. There, our unfortunate hero learns that a dog has been tormenting him from behind the scenes all along. The requirement of multiple playthroughs means many likely missed it back in the day. Number 8. Everyone Dies. Mass Effect 2.
This isn't how we planned this mission, but this is where we're at.
Even if some of your beloved companions perish in the climax of Mass Effect 2, the game ultimately wants you to succeed, which is why it's actually pretty tough to unlock the worst ending. If you, for whatever reason, want an ending where every character dies, including you, there are specific things you have to avoid doing. Namely, upgrading the Normandy and doing loyalty missions. When it comes time for the infamous endgame mission, you also need to know which position each crew member would be worse for, and then assign them to it. Everything will go horribly wrong, and everyone save for the ship's pilot, Joker, will die.
Joker. Go. Commander! Shepard!
Number 7. Hellish Abyss Ending. Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly, Director's Cut.
Don't look in there.
The Xbox version of Fatal Frame 2 gets special attention for including an extra difficulty and ending. First, you'll need to beat the game on hard mode, which unlocks Nightmare difficulty. After beating it once again on the new difficulty, you'll get the Xbox version's new ending. But it also unlocks this version's exclusive difficulty level, Fatal, where most ghosts can kill you in a single hit. Anyone attempting better prepare for a lot of deaths, because that's the only way to reach the Hellish Abyss ending, in which Miu saves her twin sister Mayu, but is blinded in the process.
Miu, let's go now.
Number 6. Ending Y. NieR Automata.
泥棒さんはあなただったんですね。親しき中にも礼儀あり。お仕置きします。
You have to get through 3 playthroughs of NieR Automata to unlock its true ending. But there's one ending for each level of the alphabet, and ending Y is by far the hardest to unlock. It first requires completing the late-game side quest Emil's Memories, which ends in a particularly tough optional boss fight.
Wow, you've sure gotten strong. I doubt you'll be needing my help anymore.
This earns you a one-of-a-kind weapon, which is good because the next step is fully upgrading every weapon to level 4. That's quite a lot of work. But after grinding it all out, you'll unlock another quest, Emil's Determination. Then, it's another even tougher boss fight, but one you must lose. Once the Emil clones start self-destructing, letting them instead of destroying them gets you the ending. Number 5. Genocide Ending, Undertale. Technically speaking, Undertale doesn't have a canonical ending, but rather many depending on how you play. And reaching the conclusion of the genocide route is definitely the most challenging aspect of the game. To get this ending, you have to kill every single monster you come across. Not just that, but you must go out of your way to activate so many random encounters in each area that enemies stop spawning. The massive grind gives you a ton of XP, but it also makes every possible boss much more challenging than they'd normally be. It culminates in a fight against Sans, one of the hardest bosses of the last decade. Defeat him, and you'll go on to destroy even more worlds. Number 4. Seeking Mr. Eaton's Name, Fall in London. For those unfamiliar with Fail Better Games' browser-based mystery adventure, it's set in an alternate, darker Victorian London. It's up to players to rise in power, whether by respectable means or otherwise. There are different endings to unlock based on what you choose as your character's ambition at the start of the game. However, you can also choose a playthrough designed to lose. Going down the Seeking Mr. Eaton's Name questline is meant for those who have already experienced everything the game has to offer. The game itself even recommends you don't do it, and for good reason. Not only is it extremely long, convoluted, and difficult, but it also has you damage your character's stats so that by the end, they're left literally unplayable. Number 3. The Dream Project, Chrono Trigger. This SNES classic famously has multiple endings, most of which are tied to when you choose to fight the final boss, Lavos. Naturally, the earliest possible instance you can tackle this boss battle is going to be the toughest. Not only is the boss a significant challenge by normal standards, but fighting him to get this ending means you also won't have a full party. Most players back in the day wouldn't have the foresight, let alone the tenacity to try attempting it. Those that did and came out on top would be transported to a place filled with various NPCs representing the development team. Speaking to them would reveal touching messages and Easter eggs about the game. Number 2. The Amulet of Yendor, Noita. The chances of getting this ending requires a lot of luck. The roguelike Noita has several endings, one of which is unlocked by collecting 33 hidden orbs, a feat which can only be accomplished on a New Game Plus playthrough. But that's not the ending we're talking about. There's an even more secret 34th orb, which you can only get out of a rare chest. Sadly, the chances of a rare chest actually having this orb is 1 in 10 million. But only after finding it will you be able to get the Amulet of Yendor from the final boss. Players have figured out ways to speed the process up, but the conventional methods require the patience of a saint. Number 1. Dragon's Homecoming, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. From Software's challenging catalog features many alternate endings that are a pain to unlock. Childhood's beginning from Bloodborne requires collecting and consuming specific items and defeating a secret final boss. However, Dragon's Homecoming from Sekiro is even more demanding. Like Undertale, the game's canonical ending is unclear. This one is certainly the most positive, but anyone who reached it without using a guide has our respect. There's a laundry list of demands, some of which are time-sensitive and will become locked if you progress too far in the game. Even still, others are things players likely wouldn't think to do. Sekiro is already arguably the studio's hardest game, and this challenge is daunting to say the least. What game do you think has the hardest alternate ending to unlock?
Feels a little empty, sir.
Shepard leaves a considerable void.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 hardest side quests in video games.
My kingdom.
For this list, we're looking over those secondary objectives that drove us to madness with how tedious or crazy difficult they turned out to be. Keep in mind we're focusing on side quests that are actively listed as tasks to be completed, as opposed to unprompted collectathons. Number 10. Big Trouble in Big Town, Fallout 3.
They're out there. I can feel it. What, you? I gave you the welcoming speech.
There's a lot of fun to be had in the Capital Wasteland. Escorting NPCs who die quicker than it takes us to reload is not one of them. After being informed that a town's doctor has been taken hostage by super mutants, it's down to you to infiltrate and lead them to safety.
You're rescuing me? Thanks! I thought we were goners for sure.
If you're looking to rake in all the good karma, then you not only have to ensure the doctor survives, but her companion as well, located in the basement of the complex. And if you really want to play hero, try to keep every civilian alive when the super mutants come to seek revenge on the entire town.
We did it! You did it! You helped us defeat the mutants! Oh, we'll all feel safer now.
Number 9. Legendary Beasts, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. A Spartan can handle anything the world sends their way. No matter the foe, few can hope to stand against the might of a warrior of Cassandra's caliber. That being said, these deranged animals are a whole different breed. While some of these beasts don't pose too much of a challenge, the Erymanthian and Caledonian boars will truly put players to the test. Unless you come stacked with some heavy-hitting weaponry, then expect to get folded a fair few times before being able to turn these beasts into pelts. Number 8. Trouble with the Trolley, Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage.
How lucky for me that you came along. My machinery is broken, and the gears I need to repair it are scattered all over the tracks. Could you hop on that trolley up there and get them?
Yes, for the last time, we are indeed having trouble with the trolley. Now, will you please shut up? You'd think an on-rail shooter featuring everyone's favorite purple dragon would be a walk in the park. Not so. There are 50 gears scattered around the level, and to find them all, you have to shoot through signs to change directions and obstacles to avoid getting dismounted. There's no slowing down, no way to gauge where the missing gears might be, and if you fail, you guessed it, you have to start the whole sequence all over again, accompanied by this now infamous quote.
Trouble with the trolley, eh?
Number 7. Queen of Cards, Final Fantasy XIII. Card-based minigames. Sometimes they're fun, other times they're the bane of our existence. By far the most complicated side quest in the game, if you want to come out all aces and complete this quest, then you have to give specific cards to the Queen of Cards so newer, rarer ones can be created in their place. Except you can't just give it to her, you have to lose them during a game of Triple Triad, which is obviously easier said than done and can spell doom for the rest of your deck. Finding the queen is also a huge pain since there's no way to track her. How about those new cards we spent so much time and energy into forging? Are we given them right away as a reward? Of course not. They'll randomly appear during matches against random NPCs. Taking a gun sword to the face wouldn't be as painful as this. Number 6. Riddler Challenges, Batman Arkham Knight.
You are staring, with stupefied incomprehension, at a mechanism I have calibrated to respond to an extremely precise radar pulse.
By this point, we knew the drill when it came to beating the Riddler and his puzzles. Solve the riddles, snag the trophies all over Gotham. Not a problem for the world's greatest detective. And then, we found out about the races. Not only is the idea of the Riddler creating racetracks to test the Batmobile just stupid, but they are the furthest thing from fun.
Faster, Dark Knight, faster! Can those flickering, faltering synapses keep up with my automatically adjusting course?
The Batmobile was already a polarizing mechanic, but having to speed our way through increasingly aggravating courses just dampened the appeal completely. Riddle me this. How many of these damn challenges are you going to make us do before we uninstall the game?
You did it. The key. Now you collect the key. Those are the rules, and I have to follow the rules, don't I? I set them after all.
Number 5. Fit for a King, God of War Ragnarok. For as much trouble as the Valkyrie gave us, they were a walk in the park compared to the ferocity of these battle-hungry spirits. With a wide move pool and ever-increasing difficulty spike, just when you've overcome one berserker, along comes another one with an even more vicious gimmick that will have you spamming resurrection stones. This all caps off with King Rolf, who can cycle through various elemental immunities and, as per the God of War standard, is able to dish out every attack used by all previous berserkers. Between him and Gna, Ragnarok made you struggle for that platinum.
My kingdom.
Number 4. Seeking Your Roots. The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion.
What can I do for you today? You here to bring me some Nirn root?
This is an exception to the collectible rule, on account that snagging 100 Nirn roots is very much a side mission that the game will constantly remind you of every time you open up your quest log. Unlike in Skyrim, finding Nirn root is not an easy task, and the fact that you have to gather 100 of them to earn the coveted Grand Elixir of Exploration is the very definition of a chore. Typical alchemist leaving us to do the heavy work.
The best place for you to start would be Shade Leaf Copse, which is a part of the Great Forest northeast of here.
Number 3. Super Ultimate Series of Battles. Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Battling against a slew of Saiyans was always going to be a test of endurance, but combine that with a strict time limit and bloated roster of enemies to face, and this parallel quest pushed many a DBZ fan too far.
Wide open!
15 minutes to finish off Tien, Yamcha, Android 18, Krillin, and Piccolo? Easy as pie. Majin Buu, Videl, Hercule, and Trunks? Okay, a little tight, but we can still handle it. Gohan, Goten, Gotenks, Goku, Vegeta, and Vegito? What kind of red ribbon bullshit is this?
It looks like I didn't train enough.
Number 2. The Lightning Dodger. Final Fantasy X. It wouldn't be a Final Fantasy game without badass weapons to unlock, and the very best, known as the Celestial weapons, require that players snag something known as a sigil in order to craft it. Naturally, one of these sigils is locked behind the most demanding and draining side quests in all of gaming. In an arena that's constantly bombarded by lightning, you have to dodge incoming thunderbolts not once, not twice, but 200 times in a row. With no way to keep count of how many you've previously avoided. Also, as it happens, dodging lightning is not easy, so expect to have your streak broken by one poorly timed button press. And you thought Tidus' laugh was the most torturous thing in this game. Number 1. Delicate Flower. Hollow Knight. While we were tempted to go with the Pantheon of Hallownest, what with it being a boss rush featuring 42 supercharged foes, given that it's the final challenge of a DLC, we decided to lean back on side quests in the base game. But make no mistake, it will punish you just as harshly. In order to fulfill the Grey Mourner's request, the knight has to take a flower to a gravesite. What's the catch? As the name implies, the flower is somewhat fragile. Should you get hit once, it will break. If you use any fast travel, it will break. Oh, and did we mention that said grave is all the way on the other side of the map?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most difficult last bosses, dungeons, or missions in gaming.
Don't worry, there will be an end to this. A pinnacle. The next stage will be your last, I assure you.
Number 10, Command Deck. Bioshock Infinite. The final stretch of this game is basically a glorified escort mission. All you have to do is protect the ship's core long enough to clear the stage. Sounds easy, right? Unfortunately, Infinite's last level isn't a test of skill. It's a war of attrition. No matter what you do, enemy gunships will keep dropping off motorized Patriots and Vox soldiers and rapid-fire turrets. It happens again and again and again until you're so overwhelmed you can barely think straight, let alone defend the core. Even if you're the best marksman in the world, it still takes a few tries to see Bioshock Infinite's credit. Number 9, Firefield, F-Zero. Despite how it looks, there's actually no way to drive into the lava on this track. But having bumpers doesn't make F-Zero's climactic circuit easy, not by a long shot. All it takes is one bad turn to leave you bouncing off the walls like a pinball. And if you make it through the first one unscathed, don't worry, there's plenty more tight 180-degree turns where that came from. Then, in truly despicable fashion, the end of the lap makes you choose between your one pit stop and a much faster shortcut. Suffice it to say, Firefield was designed to keep you on your toes, or rather, on the brakes. Number 8, Sector Horologium, Shin Megami Tensei, Strange Journey. Calling this a level isn't quite right. No, Sector Horologium is a full-on labyrinth. As the 8th and final area of the game's main dungeon, Horologium is the utter culmination of what Strange Journey has to offer. Both in and out of combat, the confusing maze-like layout forces you to thoroughly explore each of its sprawling floors. But you can't take too much time, or the high-level encounters will shred straight through your damaged team. As if that isn't stressful enough, the choices made in here also lock the player into one of the Strange Journey's 3 endings. Oh, and don't even get us started on that final boss. Number 7, Rainbow Road, Mario Kart franchise. It's all fun and games until someone picks Rainbow Road. Whether you're playing on the original SNES track or any of its iterations since, the concluding race is always a white-knuckled fight to the finish. And all it takes is one try to see why. The sharp drifts and distinct lack of bumpers turn even Mushroom Boost into a lopsided gamble. Well, unless you're trying to shoot off into orbit, that is. Then again, you probably don't need to hear any of this from us. Rainbow Road and its many, many hazards have been terrorizing Mario Kart players for generations. At this point, it's just part of the experience. Number 6, Temple Ship Assault, XCOM, Enemy Unknown. Thwarting an alien invasion is never easy, but XCOM's final mission takes that idea to a whole nother level. Since you're attacking the mothership, there's never enough cover to completely avoid taking damage. Those tiny nicks quickly add up when you're blasting through 6 consecutive swarms of enemies. Trial and error is basically the only way to get through it, and yet sometimes you'll still just lose for no reason. Thanks to XCOM's infamous accuracy checks, even the best laid plans can go south with a few unlucky misses. If by some miracle you make it to the last stage, you're rewarded with a beastly throwdown against the Uber Ethereal. Not even perfect stats would make that fighty.
This is not your purpose.
Number 5, The Imperial, Catherine.
Prepare yourself, boxer boy!
When Vincent's asleep, he's forced to ascend an imaginary clubhouse by turning stacks of cubes into staircases. Unfortunately, the last level turns that dream into a gamer's nightmare. The Imperial, introduced at the 11th hour of the campaign, decides to throw all sorts of new mechanics at the player. Suddenly, Vincent is avoiding spike blocks, monster blocks, and blocks that are hitting until he's already stepped on them. All the while, you're trying to climb fast enough to avoid an instant game over from the rising floor. Clearly, no one's getting through the Imperial without absolutely mastering Catherine's puzzle-like gameplay. Still, it is technically fair, if only barely.
You'll never win, you bastard!
What are you, stupid?
Number 4, Killing of the First Flame, Dark Souls 3. It takes 4 Chaos Lord souls, incredible dexterity, and 5 Black Knight fights just to make it through the Killing of the First Flame. But when you finally walk into the last room, you have one more visitor to contend with, the Soul of Cinder, aka the final boss to end all final bosses. Since he's the amalgamation of all the Lords of Cinder, he fights with a staggering amount of different spells and patterns. Then, once you whittle him down, he suddenly regenerates all his health, and his second phase begins. This time, with yet another moveset to learn. Dark Souls 3 really makes you work for its ending, that's for sure. Number 3, Alien's Lair, Contra. Seven stages in Contra brings out the big guns by taking away yours. In the original arcade version, there's not a single power-up in the entire level. So either you win without getting hit, or you're stuck with a painfully low damage blaster. Unfortunately, the level is also littered with complex platforming, tricky enemy patterns, and foes that hone in on you. Even when you get to the final area, it still takes some serious skill to secure the win. To be fair though, hard final levels are kind of Contra's thing. In the third game, Alien Wars, you don't just blow up the invader's heart. You have to beat the uber difficult Emperor Demon Gava too. Number 2, the final stage, Ghost and Goblins. It's only fitting that one of the hardest games of all time also has a hair-pulling last level. To set the stage, you're fighting a boss with 2 different fireballs. You can only be hit twice, and your weapon is a spammable shield toss. But you can't throw it while standing or at the peak of your jump. Yeah, it's a grueling slugfest, and that's putting it lightly. The worst part though is that this isn't even the final boss. After defeating the evil Astaroth the first time, you have to replay the entire game on a new, higher difficulty to unlock the true last stage. Spoiler, it's Astaroth again, just even more obnoxiously overpowered. Number 1, Act 6, Ninja Gaiden. This famous Nintendo title is not for the faint of heart, or really for anyone who values their sanity. Ninja Gaiden's final act includes not one, not two, but 3 boss fights. And yes, they all have to be beaten in succession. Due to a notorious bug in the game's code, if you die at all in the final stages, you are sent right back to the start of the act. You heard that right. Not the previous fight or area, the last act. So, in order to see the ending, you have to beat the most brutal stretch of Ninja Gaiden in a single perfect run. The word hard doesn't even begin to cover. Have you beaten any of these insurmountable levels?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're scratching our brains as we try to untangle these difficult video game puzzles. Number 10, the ultimate puzzle challenge, The Witness. Admittedly, any puzzles past a certain point in Jonathan Blow's The Witness could leave players staring at the screen like it was their calculus homework. But we're focusing specifically on what's been dubbed the Ultimate Puzzle Challenge. Not only do players need to work their way through these 14 brain teasers just to complete the challenge, there's also a time limit that begins as soon as the player starts. Coupling this along with the fact that the puzzle automatically resets if the player pauses the game, and that the puzzles are randomly generated, not even the internet will be able to save you from this ultimate puzzle. Number 9, the piano, Silent Hill. Long before the Silent Hill franchise wanted players to earn an English degree with the third entry's Shakespearean puzzle, the original wanted you to tap into your inner child prodigy. This puzzle wants you to figure out how an original in-game poem ties directly to the keys on a piano. Thankfully, the game doesn't go as far as expecting the player to actually learn the instrument. But figuring out the order of the black and white birds within the poem and how they affect which order the piano keys need to be pressed is still a nightmare. Honestly, this is scarier than anything the town had in store for us up to this point. Number 8, the hidden ending, Braid. Jonathan Blow strikes again with his first indie game that exploded in the early days of the Xbox Live Arcade. Even today, many still debate what the true meaning of the game's ending and its overall themes actually mean. But players who wanted to witness the true ending of this time-bending adventure are going to be in for a headache-inducing time. With no indicators or hint markers pointing even to their very existence, players will need to find 8 stars hidden throughout the game. Some are hidden off screen, and one even requires the player to wait in place for over an hour. Given this level of difficulty for an invisible challenge, we shouldn't be surprised Blow's next game was absolutely nothing but brain teasers. Number 7, The Goat, Broken Sword, The Shadow of the Templars. While the rubber duck from The Longest Journey easily could have made its way onto this list, the goat from the very first Broken Sword game is the stuff of legend, and for a good reason. In the days before the internet, this was when a lot of players' journey with George Staubert ended. Unlike most of the other puzzles within the game, this is one of the only timing-based challenges players need to contend with. With seemingly no other way into the castle than past the goat, everything players tried would get them booted by its horns. As it turns out, this was exactly what was supposed to happen. The player traps the goat by its leash, allowing them passage. Number 6, small space, big solution, the Talos Principle.
What I ask of you
My beloved messenger is a terrible sacrifice. Undo my mistake.
Akin to a mashup between The Witness and Portal, the Talos Principle has no shortage of puzzles designed to stump the player. But small space, big solution from the game's DLC remains the title's most difficult. The Talos Principle makes use of numerous different mechanics throughout its puzzles, and in this one, the puzzle doesn't even follow the base game's set of traditional rules. The player must connect both red and blue lasers to one connector, slowly making their way through the puzzle room one connector at a time. Thankfully, this is a secret area puzzle and not required for the game's completion. Number 5. Return of the Secret Pond. Baba Is You. Baba Is You is a unique puzzle game in which the player, in most cases anyways, is able to create their own solution to the game's various puzzles. Like some of the other puzzles on our list, this is thankfully one not required for the game's completion, and it's only for the most dedicated of players. However, it will certainly make you work for it. Return of the Secret Pond sees players return to a level from earlier in the game, but with a significantly increased challenge. The addition of the word has raises the level difficulty far more than players would expect, and only those with a firm grasp on the game's mechanics should willingly accept Baba's challenge. Number 4. Learn Braille. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. You would think that the hardest thing about a Pokemon game wouldn't amount to any more than becoming the very best and catching them all. But to complete their Pokedex this time, players need to catch 3 legendaries. In order to do so, they'll need to learn Braille to decipher the clues inside some caves. What makes this additionally frustrating is that the game doesn't save the translation guide to your inventory, forcing you to write down the entire alphabet to have on hand for each puzzle. Restrictions have also been placed on your Pokemon and what moves they're allowed to use. This led many players to be grateful this was an optional quest in their journey. Number 3. The world's most difficult trick. Lufia 2: Rise of the Sinestrals. Sometimes a puzzle becomes so notorious, it develops its own cult following as well as an extensive Reddit page. But then again, you don't earn a name like the world's most difficult trick if you can't back it up. What initially seems like a simple sliding block puzzle quickly evolves into a brain-melting experience. We wouldn't be surprised if it drove many players to quit, giving up on this challenge's treasure until the internet eventually showed them the solution. With only 2 open slots to move the blocks in, the best possible scenario takes a ridiculous 116 steps to successfully complete the puzzle. The developers at least had the foresight to make this optional puzzle extremely difficult to find and not a part of the main game. Number 2. The Marbles. Riven.
Thank God you've returned. I need your help.
The direct sequel to the granddaddy of puzzle games, Riven features a puzzle so ridiculously confounding, it remains a series legend even today. Just like every puzzle within Riven, the clues to this one's solution are there. But you need to have been taking very diligent notes or even know what you should be looking for beforehand. On a 25 by 25 grid, players need to place one of the colored marbles to correspond to the domes on each of the islands. However, if you weren't paying attention to the map device on each island, you're going to be doing a lot of backtracking. Even then, the game doesn't tell you exactly which marble color goes with which island, leading to more research and more backtracking.
I'm afraid this situation has often required of me a more primitive code of conduct than I might otherwise have chosen.
Number 1. The Monolith. Fez. As if the perspective-shifting puzzler Fez wasn't already brain-breaking enough, the game was hiding one final challenge for players who came back for a New Game Plus playthrough. Now with first person unlocked, players discovered new previously unseen puzzles in the environment, but also unlocked the massive black monolith using a special button combination. However, players were given little to no direction on how to unlock the final super secret red orb at its center. With no idea how to find their way inside, the Fez community eventually managed to brute force their way inside after roughly 60,000 different combinations. But to date, they still have no real idea how the game wanted players to solve this mystery correctly. How many of these puzzles were you able to solve without any help? Let us know which puzzles stumped you the most down in the comments.
Man, those lists bring up a lot of fun yet painful memories. It takes a lot of patience and dedication to get through those challenges. Last up are our picks for the hardest minigames to beat and characters and collectibles to acquire.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 hardest characters to unlock in video games. Number 10. Iron Checkpoint Crate. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. When Crash Bandicoot's first racer was remastered for the modern era, it brought together characters from across the entire franchise, including some no one expected to see. Within the main platformers, the Iron Checkpoint Crate is exactly what it sounds like, a checkpoint. But in a post-launch update for Nitro Fueled, the developer included it as a silly unlockable character. In order to earn it, you have to find all 39 hidden Beanox crates, one for each level save for the PS4 exclusive Retro Stadium. That's already a tall order, but some of these crates are hard to find and even harder to break while barreling through courses at high speeds. Number 9. Stefan, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. There are some characters whose method of unlocking is not something the average player would ever think to do. In Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Stefan is one of the strongest fighters you can add to your party. Unfortunately, it's highly likely that you'll miss the chance to unlock him. He can only join in Chapter 15, and you have to unlock him on the battlefield. But that's not the tough part. The player must have either Lethe or Mordecai step on a specific square away from the fight in order to speak with him. If it's any other character, they'll get his sword, but Stefan will forever be lost. Number 8. The Forgotten. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Although the story follows the unfortunate Isaac, there are still plenty of other characters to find. Added through an expansion, the Forgotten is a skeleton that fights with a bone club and has a laundry list of tasks in order to unlock. After defeating the first boss in under a minute, you'll get a broken shovel. You'll then need to survive as Mom stomps at you from above, though using your shabby prize will at least stop her from attacking in the current room. Eventually making it through a boss rush, you'll repair the shovel. Then just keep surviving waves of enemies until you reach the dark room where you can dig up the Forgotten's remains. Hope it was worth it. Number 7. Skelly, Chrono Cross. As you'll see, some of the hardest characters to unlock can be found in RPGs. Chrono Cross features a surprising 45 possible party members, and Skelly is, without a doubt, the hardest to unlock. You'll come across his lone skull in Fossil Valley, where he'll ask you to track down his remaining parts. You'll then have to track down those parts across 6 different locations of its fairly large world. While it's possible to find some before coming across Skelly, others are pretty challenging to find and hidden in obscure areas. But after bringing them all together and watching him reunite with his grandma back in Termina, Skelly will head out on your adventure. Number 6. Reiji Kido, Revelations Persona. These days, players can simply look up guides on how to unlock characters, but in 1996, you had to follow a set of specific, obscure decisions in order to earn Reiji in the first Persona. You'd have to know to start the process right at the beginning, heading from the infirmary to the teacher's lounge. Talking to a certain teacher would lead you to a classroom on the 2nd floor, where you'd meet Reiji. From there, it took following a set path, including finding and talking to his mother only once, and declining specific characters when they wanted to join. If you did any number of things incorrectly, one of the best possible party members would be lost for good. Number 5. William Bourdin, Urban Reign.
Today, I would like to announce a new crime prevention initiative that will stop this epidemic which plagues our city.
Going through the process of unlocking a character isn't always worth it. This beat-em-up story mode follows Brad Hawk, a hired muscle caught in the middle of a gang war. The villain is corrupt politician William Bourdin, who is behind the city-state and craves even more power. Players can unlock him, though it takes a lot of dedication.
Round 1. Fight!
You have to get an S rank on every stage, which can be ridiculously tough. There's a number of characters and difficulty levels to consider to find the right balance so you can earn your trophy. But Bourdin sucks anyway, from his stats to his attacks, so you may as well not even bother.
Bourdin wins!
Number 4. Zero, Bayonetta. In the original Bayonetta, you could unlock an additional hard mode in the form of a character named Zero. Essentially controlling the same as the main character, Zero can only handle a couple of hits before he goes down. As you might expect, unlocking him is no small feat either. After finishing every Alpine mission, you can try your hand at a special survival chapter consisting of 51 fights. The first 10 are on normal mode, the next 20 on hard, and the next 20 on non-stop climax. It culminates in a clash with Bayonetta herself, who has 5 health bars and naturally puts up a mighty fight. Number 3. The Crystal Men, FTL, Faster Than Light. With a procedurally generated solar system's worth of encounters, FTL provides a ton of possible allies. But the Crystal Men are both the hardest to recruit and the ones most worth doing so. First, you'll need to be lucky enough to encounter a randomized event where a distress call leads you to an asteroid field. There, you'll find a damaged stasis pod you must get repaired at a specific facility, which holds your first crystal crew member. Then you must wait for another random event to happen, which gets you a device that teleports you to a hidden sector. Only then will you be able to recruit more crystal men, who have great weapons and one of the best ships in the game. Number 2. Cloud Strife, Final Fantasy Tactics. Although he's arguably the most famous Final Fantasy protagonist, Cloud takes a ton of work to unlock in this spin-off. Like several others, it requires following a very specific path within the story. You must have kept Mustadio in your party and completed Chapter 4, after which you must know to return to his hometown. There, you can aid his father in completing his portal device through a lengthy side quest that involves recruiting other party members and a secret boss fight. You'll also have to have bought a flower from a girl in Salgidos. Afterwards, Cloud will be summoned to this world, and he'll join your party the next time you return. How anyone could have known to do all this is beyond us. Number 1. Nordum, Planescape Torment. Not only does unlocking Nordum take some major outside-of-the-box thinking, but it takes completing an infamously tough dungeon. First, you have to buy what seems like an ordinary cube from the Curiosity Shop. Turns out this is a figurine of a Modron, one of Nordum's mechanical race, but you can only find this out by speaking to some real Modrons or Ivana, the Galeria owner. Only then can you get the chance to solve the cube's puzzle, which will then teleport you to a maze.
Disarmed.
This labyrinth is one of the most difficult levels the game has to offer, with plenty of strong enemies and shifting parts. Nordum stands as your prize for making it through it all. Which of these characters have you unlocked? Did you find them worth the effort?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 hardest mini-games in video games. This list will be looking at the most difficult or frustrating micro-challenges in video games. As per usual, we're only including one game per franchise. Which of these mini-games did you hate playing through? Is there something we left off? Number 10. Thunderwall, Mario Party 7. Mario Party isn't exactly the most balanced series in Nintendo's catalog, but when it comes to testing pure skill and reaction time, nothing really matches Thunderwall. The free-for-all has everyone climb a wall as Bowser waits at the top. While you try to avoid spike balls in your way, the big bad's minions fly around trying to spray you with fire. However, chances are very good none of you are going to win. The fire often comes faster than your character can move, while your opponents are bound to get in your way, whether they be computers or other players. With little to no margin for error, the fun in Thunderwall is not to be taken literally. Finish! Number 9. Slime Climb, Fall Guys. A battle royale consisting of platforming minigames was a genius idea. Fall Guys has enjoyed multiple seasons worth of content updates, Yet one of the mini-games guaranteed to knock out a ton of players has been present since the beginning. Slime Climb has everyone work through various connected obstacle courses as the slime below constantly ascends, swallowing up the level and anyone unlucky enough to be left behind. For many of us, the constantly rising hazard adds a hefty dose of stress to any jump. And considering the minigame is rather long, that stress will be a constant companion. If your nerves or skill level can't cut it, you'll be searching for a new lobby rather quickly. Number 8. Mushroom Derby, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. In any normal Mario game, we'd be ecstatic to race on the back of our favorite Dino pal. But taking Yoshi out to the tracks in Super Mario RPG isn't exactly exciting. Once Mario arrives on Yoster Isle, he can help his green companion in beating the cocky Boshi in a foot race. In order to do so, you must alternate pressing the A and B buttons along with the music's rhythm. This is much easier said than done, considering there are lots of instruments and several pauses, and since Boshi is much faster. Even with 3 cookies to give Yoshi a boost, players have been confused and angered by this deceptive minigame for years. Number 7. Junimo Kart, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley lets you live out your greatest farming dreams, but there are other ways to pass the time. The in-universe arcade game Junimo Kart is a minecart platformer consisting of 9 stages. While the difficulty level starts out alright, things quickly go off the rails in more ways than one. The majority of tracks feature strategically and annoyingly placed hazards and jumps. Not only that, but some elements are procedurally generated. There's a high chance you'll mess up at least a few times. While there are checkpoints, extra lives aren't easily earned. Once you're out, it's back to the very beginning. And here we thought Donkey Kong had the hardest minecart levels. Speaking of, number 6, Donkey Kong Arcade, Donkey Kong 64. It may seem odd since Donkey Kong is a full, actual game, but it did appear as a mini-game in the N64 entry, and it is much harder than normal. DK finds it inside the Frantic Factory level and must beat it to earn a golden banana. What makes it harder is having only a single life for all 4 levels. Naturally, if you die, it's back to the start. It's certainly doable for the persistent, but there's a much harder and completely mandatory second round. Mario now has 2 lives, but all hazards move with such speed, it's really just giving you false hope. But beating this gets you the Nintendo coin, an item required to reach the final boss. Number 5. Traditional Japanese dancing, Like a Dragon, Ishin. Formerly known as Yakuza, the Like a Dragon series features an insane amount of minigames, some of which are actually pretty bizarre. However, the hardest we've come across is the traditional dancing from Ishin. The easier songs won't be a problem, but completing all of them is a major challenge. Harder songs divide your attention between opposite sides of the screen. While the left is for directional inputs, the right is for the face buttons. Of course, being more challenging songs, the notes also come extremely quickly. It may not be so bad if its structure were like all other rhythm games, but it was designed to overwhelm and does so wonderfully. Number 4. Tiger Tiger, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Some of the toughest mini-games in existence can be found in JRPGs, and they usually involve a fair amount of grinding if you want all the prizes they have to offer. Inside Taurus House in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you can play Tiger Tiger, an undersea platformer with 5 levels. As you descend, you must avoid enemies and the environment in order to safely collect all the treasure at the bottom. You must then make it back up with no way to attack. There isn't a lot of space to move in, so you'll likely be taking a lot of hits, which affects your score and what loot you get. Unfortunately, it's the best way to upgrade Poppy, one of the artificial blades. Number 3. Goron Dancing, The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages. Although its counterpart Oracle of Seasons also features a dancing minigame, Ages has the hardest one by a mile. And of the two eras in that game, the Dance Hall of the Past offers the greater challenge. Link must copy the 3 moves of the Goron, left, right, or posing, at the exact right moment. You have to do it once for the story, but every time after that is either due to your own sadomasochism or an extreme desire to 100% the game. Platinum difficulty is a nightmare, requiring perfect rhythm for 8 rounds of fairly long sequences. Doing so is the only way to earn the powerful Bomber's Ring, but there's still only a chance that will be your reward. Number 2. Hackox, Xenosaga Episode 3. In Xenosaga Episode 3, you'll need a whole lot of patience to make it through Hackox. The puzzler places your characters on paths, and it's up to you to make sure they reach their goal as they continuously walk on. There are 6 levels of difficulty, with Master being the hardest. As the levels go on, you'll have to deal with multiple characters, moving blocks, varying perspectives, traps, and a whole lot more. If too many of your characters die, you may as well restart, because you'll only move on if a certain amount makes it. It's a huge pain to make it through all of these levels, so props to the players who have done so. Number 1. Jump Rope, Final Fantasy IX. To be perfectly honest, Final Fantasy has so many hard minigames, they can make up their own list. The 10th entry's Blitzball draws the ire of many players, but when it comes to an absurd level of difficulty combined with sanity-testing tedium, there's no topping a simple game of Jump Rope. You can easily find 2 girls playing the game in Alexandria. Players must get the rhythmic jumping exactly right, with rewards earned at intervals of 20, 50, 100, 200, 300, and quite frankly absurd, 1,000 jumps. Speed increases with each reward, and one misstep makes you start all over. It may not be a varied minigame, but it is undeniably a hard one. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most difficult items to obtain in video games. We're only including physical collectibles today, so you won't find any unlockable skills or abilities here. Number 10. Isu Armor, Assassin's Creed Origins. While the Isu armor is easier to obtain in later entries, its first appearance in Origins essentially requires you to scour its fairly large map. Players will first have to solve all 12 stone circle puzzles, which are naturally scattered throughout the world. That's pretty standard in a game of this size, but you also have to have collected 50 silica, a rare resource only found in ancient tombs which, of course, are also scattered about the map. You then have to go to the tomb underneath the Great Sphinx in Giza to earn the armor.
Not from a dreamless sleep or an absence of light.
With the amount of work and resources involved, there's no way to get the armor quickly, if you do at all. Number 9. Light Ball, Pokemon series. There are a lot of items your Pokemon can hold to give them a slight edge in battle, though the Light Ball is definitely one of the hardest to get your hands on. Introduced in Gen 2, you can only get it by trading your Pikachu from Pokemon Yellow into Gold or Silver. but in most subsequent entries, you'll only find it by catching wild Pikachu, which still only have a 5% chance of holding it. In most appearances, it doubles the attack and special attack stats of the Pikachu who has it, so it's certainly beneficial. But with that low of a spawn rate, don't expect to find it often. Number 8. Zenith, Terraria. Over its lifespan, Terraria has included many incredible weapons. So, one that requires you to have 10 completely different swords to craft is naturally going to pose a challenge. The Zenith sword was added through the 1.4 update in 2020. If you have the means to get it, you absolutely should, as any swing creates a flurry of previous blades used to create it. Since these swords are earned throughout the game, it was likely easier for seasoned players to craft it than new ones. Even still, some of the weapons, like the Meow Mirror and Star Wrath, have low percentage drop rates. And the Zenith can only be crafted using a rarer anvil. Either way, prepare to grind. Number 7. Supersuit, Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Like many RPGs before it, Legend of the Seven Stars lets you purchase better armor as you progress. But the best one tests your jumping skills rather than requiring money. One of Mario's attacks is the Super Jump, which will have Mario continue jumping on an enemy's head if the player pushes the attack button at the proper moment. In Monstro Town, you'll find a character that keeps track of your record. Only after reaching the maximum of 100 will this character give you the Supersuit. Since this can only be done in combat and is very easy to mess up, it can take a lot of time and frustration. Number 6. Hestu's Gift, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The Zelda franchise includes a handful of items that are pretty tough to obtain. However, none of them require the same level of time commitment that Hestu's Gift does. Link is given a seed whenever he finds a Korok, which can then be given to Hestu to expand his inventory space. Only after finding all 900 of them does Link get Hestu's Gift, which is as useless as a golden turd, because that's what it is. No single Korok puzzle or challenge is too difficult, but that doesn't change the fact that there are 900 of them. Nintendo also increased the number to 1,000 for Tears of the Kingdom, yet didn't offer us any better reward for finding them. Number 5. Sword of Kings, Earthbound. In RPGs, you want to seek out items that make your party members the very best they can be. But in Earthbound, you better be prepared to grind several hours if you want to get Pooh his best possible weapon. The Sword of Kings only has a 1 in 128 chance of appearing, which is less than a single %. Thankfully, it can only be found in a single location, the Stonehenge base, and is only dropped by a single enemy, the Starman Super. Knowing where to look isn't difficult, but you'll still have to put in the time. This can be made easier with Jeff's spy ability, which can find and steal enemy items, but the appearance rate is still extremely low. Number 4. Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker, World of Warcraft. With a name like that, it's safe to assume this powerful blade takes a lot of effort to unlock. Thunder Fury is earned at the end of a very long, very high-level string of quests. Players must first go through a level 60 raid dungeon, the Molten Core, gain the bindings of the Windseeker from 2 separate bosses, and bring them to High Lord Demetrian in Silithus. Then, you must defeat Ragnaros, the dungeon's final boss, who drops the essence of the Fire Lord. Then, you just have to collect a bunch of other resources, one of which can only be found in another level 60 raid dungeon. Take all these things back to Demetrian, who summons one more boss for you to face before you finally earn the prize. Number 3. Recon Armor, Halo 3 and Halo 3 ODST. While this armor would be made available to all players in later games, unlocking it back in the day was a mighty challenge. Originally, Bungie would give this cosmetic armor out during special in-game events, and only to players that proved worthy. When ODST was released 2 years later, the developer made it so completing 7 Vidmaster challenges across both games would unlock it.
Welcome to Earth! I like it so far! On my last mag!
5 lives.
7 doesn't seem that high a number until you consider how balls-to-the-wall hard these challenges were. One required beating a campaign level on Legendary, solo, without firing around or throwing a grenade. Another could only be completed by making it through 60 waves of enemies in the firefight mode. But if you had the armor, you were a god among men. Number 2. Hand Cannon, Dead Space 2. Players wield some pretty creative weapons in their fight against the Necromorphs, but none of them are as unique or as hard to get as a foam finger humorously called the Hand Cannon. The weapon first appeared in Dead Space 2. Players would have to beat the game once to unlock hardcore difficulty, and then beat that to earn the prize. This mode gets rid of checkpoints and only allows for 3 saves, so hardcore is a pretty accurate name. The hand cannon returned in the 2023 remake of the first entry, unlocked after beating it on impossible difficulty. This mode can only be unlocked after beating the game on hard, and actually forces you back into that difficulty after you die once. Number 1. Great Trango and Seitengrad, Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age. In the original version of Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Spear could be lost if you opened one of 4 specific chests, something the game doesn't tell you. However, in the HD remaster, The Zodiac Age, the developers included new, invisible weapons that are even harder to get. The Great Trango has a 20% chance to be inside a chest in Subterra itself, which only has a 2% chance to appear. You also have a 3% chance to steal it from a secret boss, Zodiark, which raises to 6% with the Thief's Cuffs. Similarly, the Seitengrad has a 20% chance to be on the Sky Ferry, only it's inside an invisible chest that has a 1% chance of spawning, or 5% if you have a diamond armlet equipped. Happy hunting! Which of these holy grails have you unlocked? Are there any we missed? And that wraps up our deep dive into some of gaming's most challenging moments. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or a curious newcomer, these achievements promise frustration and triumph in equal measure. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.